With me is Hugo Alberts. My name is Seph Fontane Pennock. You probably know me from the weekly emails that I send out. And today we would like to talk with you about the topic of self-acceptance. What can you do when you know you should be in self-acceptance, but you revert back to your story? It's the question.
Beautiful. I think the first thing is always to train yourself to know when you're in a story mode. I call this the story mode. It's like the mind creating literally a story again. Oh my God, it's not going well. It's not working. That crap, that bullshit. It's all stories, all words. The easiest way to get back, I think, or to get out of that mode is to connect to this moment. And how can you do that? In many ways. Simply by closing your eyes and breathing. Just noticing your body, feeling your body, going outside, have a walk, connect to this moment, the experience in this moment. I think this is a very powerful way to get out of it. It's always staying out of it's always staying out of that creation, the mind creation mode, because in that case, the rational mind, the story is using you. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I think what we've trained ourselves to do nowadays is to escape the self.
Yes.
So what we do is we either, go out and have a drink with friends. Some people use recreational drugs. Watching Netflix, being on Facebook. We've all these different means, and often a combination of them, to escape the self, to escape the possibility of being alone with yourself, without your smartphone, in the moment. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. How many times a day, like a normal person in this day and age, how much time do they spend alone with themselves, even if they're waiting for the bus? The smartphone is out and they're checking something, consuming a podcast, listening to an audiobook, whatever it is, in order not to be with the self, right?
Yeah, and it's all outside in. And this is, I think, also when you talk about cultivating more self-acceptance is not outside in. It's not complying to norms. It's not something outside yourself, but it's inside out. It's connecting to yourself and moving on from there. So it's noticing what you feel, and even what I also often do, and I think this is something I learned from Seph. You were talking about the story mind. Write it down. When you write down your stories, you can literally observe them. So you can literally act as the observer, as the self process, looking at the stories.
Right.
What's going on in your mind, and then you're detached. So part of it is also becoming more detached from that storyline.
Yeah, I mean, let's say you're writing a book, or you're an architect, for example, and you're developing this big building or something, right? How do you do that? What is the process? It doesn't take place in your mind. Maybe the first stage, maybe conceptually you're getting some inspiration, that takes place in the mind. But as soon as you have it and you want to make it more concrete, you write it down. Yep. You make the drawings, you put it all on one big desk or on a whiteboard or something, so that you can take an objective look at it, look at all of the pieces, see what needs to be left out, see what is still missing. And I think if you're taking self-reflection and introspection, if you take that seriously, then the way to do that would be first to get it all out there, to write it down. So this is what I do, at least, with the self-reflective writing. I write it down, and then once in a while I'll reread it. It's like keeping a journal. And then once in a while you read it back, and your self-image becomes apparent.
Yes. You actually write down a bit the story that you create about yourself, or the beliefs, the thoughts that you have about other people. I think in the third wave therapy generation that is now very popular, like acceptance and commitment therapy and mindfulness and those approaches, they all try to strengthen that observing self, that ability to stay away from that story that we create about everything and everyone and about life itself mostly.
Right.